Welcome to the Swinging Lights. This is the second installment from the backpacking trip that I did with my friends down in right outside of Boulder, Escalante area, Harris Wash. We backpacked down and through that whole area into the Escalante River. We saw not God's, the cosmic ashtray. I always want to call that thing the God's ashtray, but it's the cosmic ashtray. Pretty cool thing to check out if you're ever out in that area. Not really exactly sure how that was formed, but it was impressive as hell. But like I said on the last episode, before we took off on this backpacking trip, I took a moment and basically pulled out my microphone and my iPhone and just had a real conversation with each person that was willing to join me in the truck. And that's really how this all came to be. So, I know Chris and I, our main goal is trying to make this kind of a music podcast, but fuck, we're human beings. We're in a band. We make music together. But we also have a lot of really good friends, and we also have a lot of really cool experiences. And only through those life experiences can you come up with and have real material to write your music about. So Chris, he's going to have some of his best friends on here. I'm going to have some of my best friends on here. That's part of who we are. That's part of the inspiration of where our music comes from. And anybody who's being genuine and real in music or in any art form is drawing inspiration from life experiences. If not, you're making shit up and you're playing to what you think the crowd wants to hear, and you're not being genuine. You're not being authentic. So, yeah, I think it's important to have some of our friends, our inspiration on this podcast. So it's not just going to be about music all the time. This podcast is an outward way for Chris and I and whoever else in our band, Wayne, Brad, Herc, if they want to interview some of their friends and be on here. This is going to be open forum. So anyway, sorry to get off on a tangent, but this episode was a conversation I had with Peter Burton. And Peter, this is only the second time I've ever hung out with this human being. And I met him once before, and this was last year in Moab. We went on a big group trip and just kind of car camped and fucked around, and it was a lot of fun. But this is the second time I've met Peter. Peter just decided to show up and do this backpacking trip with us, and I'm really, really glad he did. The kid is just a wonderful person, a great human being, and you'll realize how great he is just by this conversation we had, and this is only the second time we've ever met. I really tend to connect more with people who are open with who they are and honest with who they are. I have a really tough time with people if I feel like they're hiding something or they're being ingenuine. If that's a word, I think it's a word. But when I feel like people are hiding something and they're not being 100% honest, I just don't really want to spend time with them at all. But Peter, this is like I said before, this is the second time that I've ever met this person, and we had just a really fun conversation, and we're just open and honest and able to laugh, say some offensive shit. Nobody got mad. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad he said, sure, yeah, I'll come be on your podcast. Why the fuck not? And so anyway, I think that's about as much of an intro as Peter needs. He's a really cool guy. He works for Apple. I met him through some of my friends who work at Apple, and we did this backpacking trip together, and he crushed it. He was hanging with me the whole time, and I'm a pretty seasoned backpacker, and this kid, yeah, he hiked hard, and he enjoyed the whole experience, I'm sure, as I did. And so yeah, Anyway, after the intro music, we'll get into this conversation. Thanks for listening. I'm here with Peter, and Peter, I've met you like once or twice before camping.
Yeah, just the once.
Moab?
Yeah.
Moab was the only time?
Yeah.
Okay.
1 year ago.
And 1 year ago, we went to Moab. That was a sketchy fucking drive-in. I was in a Volkswagen bus, and that was like a 4-wheel drive shit.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And we barely made it in.
Yeah. Well, and every car barely made it in. The van I was in, we were bottoming out. It was scraping the tire. Black Betty, Matt's Black Betty, the teardrop, that almost didn't make it in. That was, It was my
wife
drive.
Climbed out of the bus. She was so nervous. Yeah. She was like, oh, shit, fuck this. You're on your own. Yeah. I'll guide you. And I was like, all right, whatever.
That trail should have been for Jeeps, and we were taking it in VW buses.
But wow, what a cool experience.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Kind of like a little slot canyon almost.
Gorgeous,
yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you know all these folks here?
Mostly through Apple, through my work, yep. So meeting Rachel and Matt Burdick at Apple, and then Jason Lockwood, and then through association, you guys, good people all around.
There's a lot of good folks working at Apple. Is that just the type of people they attract, or?
I can't say nationwide because I've only worked in Utah, but from what I've seen, I think so. I think there's just this attraction to the mindset that Apple brings, and also that just people that enjoy life.
Right.
Whether that's being in the outdoors, being camping.
Well, I feel like Apple pays their employees pretty well and offers good benefits and time off, and they don't sit and...
They definitely do, yeah, for sure. It allows you to do a lot more in life than you would think working in any other retail gig, for sure.
What do you do for Apple?
I work in the back, so I do all the operation side. So that deals with logistics, receiving, inventory, accounting, all that stuff.
Oh, okay. So you're not doing like any of the electronic, technical, crazy shit?
I did that for a spell. It wasn't really up my alley, so... I started out in sales. I did about 3.5 years of sales, and then after that, I kind of moonlighted into the technical side and helping people with appointments and things. And ultimately, though, I think that where I'm at now is where I'm really, I think, in my element. I really enjoy the challenges. It's very analytical and mathematic, which is weird because I don't like math, but I enjoy it. The challenge.
You do like math. It's just nobody ever taught you to enjoy math. Like it was like you gotta understand these laws and mathematical equations, and we're not going to explain to you the application of it, which kills it, right?
Yeah, well, and it's physical is what I like, because theoretical math I struggle with, algebra I struggle with, but when you look at movement types of product, I can always imagine physical product moving with these types, and that's a fun puzzle to solve when you're trying to figure that out.
I think it's important to have meaning, to have a career where you make money but you have some meaning in it. Like a lot of people just slave away at like meaningless jobs that just zero fulfillment, and that makes me sad, man. I've had those jobs. I don't feel like I'm there now. I feel like my job's very rewarding.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a registered nurse working with veterans. There's a rewarding element to it, and the pay's not too bad either.
Yeah.
So good
definitely.
stuff. Well, you were talking about earlier, we're sitting around the campfire. No fire, but we were sitting around it. You're into like leather work? What do you make?
I'm into like little easy to get into hobbies, and leatherworking is definitely one of those passions and hobbies that I've picked up. I like starting with an idea and then crafting that idea into something tangible. I think that's like the key to my life. I mentioned, like seeing physical movement. I like watching physical matter change and take shape. And so the cool thing with leatherworking is I'll start out with an idea like a pouch or an envelope or a sheath or a cover, and in my head, and then I'm able to translate that into tactical materials with my hands.
Right.
And it's just such a cool, rewarding experience seeing something that didn't exist physically, and then it exists in front of my eyes, and I can feel it, and I can move it, and I can touch it. It's really, really rewarding.
Do you know the history on it at all? Like
Of leatherworking?
Yeah, like who were the first people to start doing that, or do we even know? Because like, how do you even figure that out?
For
It's
wanting
like,
to...
It's one thing to kill an animal and eat it, but how are you like, hey man, if we take their skin and dry it out, we can make shit out of it.
Yeah,
Some durable shit.
Without being a historian or having studied it at all, I would say it probably goes back to, the people that first came down through, I would imagine what would be, the straits from like Russia through Alaska, and then came down and became what we consider in America as our, Native Americans, and as they encountered, I feel like, cooler conditions, they realized that they needed warmer materials. And I mean, I don't know who the first person was that thought it was a great idea to stake it out and sit it in the sun,
right,
and see what it did,
Well, Native Americans have been doing it for fucking ever, right?
Hundreds of years.
Thousands.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Huh.
But there's something that, we live in a world where everything is synthetic, and being able to come back to these roots that, our ancestors used hundreds or thousands of years ago, and recreate those processes and feel the material and understand the difference between, leather and kydex.
Right.
Huge difference, both incredible materials and fun to work with, but they each have, their perspective benefits and cons, and
right.
it's just really fun to challenge yourself and say, oh, well, that didn't work, what do I need to do next time? Or, I really enjoyed this method, how do I recreate that in a different shape?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's I trip out on this a bunch when I think about everything we've pulled out of the earth and made. Like the fact that we're talking, like right now we have a microphone plugged into an iPhone with two headphones and a cable, and it's all working, and we're gonna upload this to the World Wide Web. Like that, all the shit that makes that happen just came out of the earth. Like that is so fucking crazy to me. The car we're sitting in, this is all materials that came out of the earth. It's fucking trippy, man.
It's mind-blowing to think that the concept of a microprocessor or a computer, we literally as humans smashed an element, a rock that we thought was actually a metal or an alloy, flattened it, shot it full of electricity, and convinced it to think that it could compute. How mind-blowing is that? It's nuts. It's crazy.
We're in the fucking Matrix, dude.
It's
we're
insane.
In the Matrix.
Yeah. and how fast that happened, because you look at basic, technology. You look at the revolution of the steam engine, and piston and combustion. And we went from that, which for the longest time, that's kind of all we had, for 80 or so years. And then you look at, we put a man on the moon,
There's controversy about that, though. Like, some people don't think that
Yeah.
happened, and some people do.
But whether it happened or not, think about the fact that whether that happened or
Elon
not,
Musk is still fucking shooting rockets into space.
What it would have taken if it had happened, let's say theoretically it didn't, what it would have taken if it had happened, there's less technology in what was in that shuttle that landed on the moon, theoretically, than in the first iPhone.
That's so crazy.
There's more computational power. Like,
so crazy.
The level of advancement, how quickly we've taken these tricks that we've come up with.
I don't think we're ready for it, man.
It scares me.
I think it's dangerous.
It scares me.
Like, people with their phones. I mean, think about it. Like, back 100 years ago, you may, if you were lucky, see two sets of tits in your whole life. Your mom's and whoever you married.
Yeah.
Now you can just get on this thing that you hold in your hand and just look at all the tits in the world.
Well, and even if
I can't imagine that that's good for us.
Even if you lived in a town that had a whorehouse and you had infinite supply of tits, there were risks. There were dangers. It cost money. There was diseases. There was infections.
Right.
You're not going to get an STI watching porn.
Right. Oh, it's safe. Onesomes are the safest sex there is.
Safe is such a good way to describe how we experience technology, because before there was risk. If you were an adventurer in, if you were up in like Hudson Bay and you were beaver trapping,
right,
and the revolution, that caused like industrialization in the Americas, that was dangerous. There was other people, there were Native Americans, there were bears, there was just nature itself wanted to kill you.
Right.
Now you can go camping in an incredible place, but it's relatively safe.
Right.
Because of the technologies that we bring with us. is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's good and bad. It's good because
right?
people like us can go out, but it's bad because then everybody goes out, and I don't like being surrounded by shit tons of people.
Yeah.
I'm selfish that way. When I
And
go
they
out to nature, I don't want to be running across, you see it all.
Yeah, it's just mind
Tom,
blowing.
Dick, and Harry hanging out in the woods. Don't know what the fuck they're doing, but they're able to do it because they have an iPhone.
You're sitting there enjoying a beautiful sunrise with a nice cup of coffee that you made yourself out of a campfire that you started yourself, and a drone buzzes over your head.
Yeah, it's no bueno. Or an airplane.
Yeah, it's like I like to think that when I'm out in nature, I want to be to a degree as pure as possible.
It gets harder, man.
I'm gonna
it's
take
harder
some
and
liberties.
harder because you have to go further and further to experience that in a lot of ways because everybody's doing it, and it's good. Like ultimately I'm very happy that people are connecting with nature in any way because I think the more people that do that, the more voice there's going to be for like, let's protect this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with all that. It's fine, but it gets harder and harder to get away from people because like I truly want to feel like I'm out there. I'm left to all my resources. If I die, I don't want anybody finding me.
Yeah.
I want it to be like, yeah, man, this is what I did. I'm dying out here. I'm dead. I died because I went out, man. I was exploring, right? I don't want it to be where somebody could find me right away. Is that weird?
No, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. My next goal is to get like a really ultralight solo tent so I can just have a day pack. And I want to get to the point where I run in like 25 miles into like the Uintas, set up camp because it's all light, and then run out the next day.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
Well, I could run
hiked.
11 miles now. I just need a really light pack. Yeah.
Running is crazy.
No, it'll happen.
That's
I've seen it, dude. Me and my wife last year, we did a 55-mile section of the Highline Trail in the Uintas, and we came across a guy, and he was running like 50 miles because he was prepping for this marathon he was doing like in 5 days. So he got up early in the morning. He was running 50 miles that day in the Uintas, and that's like I think average it's over. I think the whole Highline Trail is above 10,000 feet. And then there's like all those passes that can get up to like 12.5.
Yeah. Jeez.
And he's just fucking running.
Yeah. I have so much respect for the people that are willing to not listen to their body in order to push themselves farther. I think you see it with long distance runners. I think you see it with people that do endurance things, the people that swim across, the English Strait. So much respect for those people because they're constantly getting input, right? Like the brain doesn't turn off.
Right.
It's constantly firing saying, hey, stop doing this. This is not fun for us.
Right.
And they're able to say, you know what, brain? You're telling me that, but another part of my brain is telling me
overriding your ass.
Yeah, because it's...
But ultimately, your body can override your brain.
It can.
People shut down.
Yeah.
They fall over, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy how you can force... Like, it's so weird. It's thought. Your thought can overpower your body.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, right? So it's like I'm forcing my body to do what it doesn't want to do with my thoughts.
Yeah, and you can deny one part of your brain with another part because your receptors can be saying, hey, this hurts. And another part of your brain can say, I realize that, but I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to bypass that.
So what the fuck is going on? Like, what part of your brain is the ultimate controller? Like, what the fuck is that? Is that who you are?
I don't know, man.
Who the fuck are you?
It's been a long time since I took a psych class. I can't remember id and ego and superego, but...
Well, we got into this conversation on the last episode because I was saying, animals, there's a lot of animals that are functioning on the same intelligence level as we are, but then my buddy Chris was arguing against that, and he said... A lot of mammals are in a way because I think like mammals engage in play, like rough and tumble play, right?
Yeah.
And that's a source of enjoyment and fulfillment. And they also, mammals and stuff, they're kind of like herd, like they hang out in groups and have, a little bit more relationship, but they're not on the same level as us. And one of the things he said was like the upper part of our brain. Let me see if I can get it right. So the small part of our brain is like the reptilian brain, the old brain, the brain that just reacts right away on stuff without even thinking about it. But we developed this larger portion of the brain so that we could analyze the lower functions of the brain. So like our big brain actually analyzes the like reptilian brain that we have.
And decides if we want to follow it. Or
and other animals don't necessarily have
if we want to fire that signal. I can't remember where I read it, and I feel like this is going to be the recurring theme for this podcast is I'm going to say shit that I don't remember. But I remember reading somewhere once, it's like, imagine being a tiger or a lion or a leopard or like a apex predator, right? And seeing another apex predator that it recognizes as, a human running. It's not chasing anything. It's not running from anything. It's just running.
Right.
What goes through that apex predator's mind? Think about it. Just
So just watching a human run by. It's not running from anything. It's just running for exercise.
What goes through their mind? Like, do you think they show confusion? Do you think they're like, wait a minute, they're not hunting me. They're not being hunted by anything. Why is this thing just booking it across this incredible landscape?
That's what's weird about humans, because most animals don't expend energy unless they're going to gain energy. And we have like an abundance. So
male lions sleep like what? It's like
shape,
13 hours a day. Yeah, like the apex predators don't do anything for the majority of the day or for days and weeks until they need to. It's like, okay, it's been 2 weeks. I guess I'll go and kill something and eat it.
Can't crocodiles go like months?
Oh, I'm sure.
I remember it was almost like months to a year without eating and they don't die.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Because it's a goddamn burden, man. To be honest with you, me and my wife have this conversation all the time. It's like, feeding yourself a few times a day is just such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep.
You have to cook yourself food multiple times a day just to stay alive.
Well, and it's not like they don't have the same stimuli as we do. Some people could argue, oh, well, they only need it. It's like, well, we don't need to eat 3 times a day either. They see the same stimuli. They see the gazelle jumping across the plains. They see them at the watering holes. They choose not to take advantage of some of those moments. And it seems like we've almost lost that primordial, like you said, like lizard brain, where it's like, if I see something, I'm just going to go for it regardless. Right. Whereas they see it and they're like, yeah, I could take that down, but I ate yesterday. I'm good.
Right.
It's just like we as a species have developed to the point where nothing is good enough. We want to take advantage of every opportunity we get, whereas they're content waiting it out.
That's so wild. It's a weird thing to think about.
Yeah.
But obesity is a big fucking problem. And that didn't exist not too long ago.
No.
We were watching Woodstock. That was like, what, 1969-ish? Right?
Yeah, probably. Around the same time as the moon landing.
Right. And we were watching it, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, find me somebody that's overweight.
Yeah.
There's nobody. Nobody. Everybody was fucking in shape, man. What the hell happened?
Yeah. And
I just see a lot of sad people walking around carrying a lot of weight, and I just look at those people and I go, dude, how much depression is there?
Yeah.
Like, being like that cannot be a fulfilling life. Like, it's got to be painful. It's got to be deep rooted in depression and the inability to control, like, just eating. Also, like, I read National Geographic. It was the new face of hunger. And a lot of it's actually driven by poverty.
Yeah.
Because the only food you can afford is food that doesn't have good nutrients.
No,
right?
Yeah, you can buy a 99-cent cheeseburger, but a $5 salad, you're gonna buy the 99-cent cheeseburger, But also the perception of how a successful or healthy person changes too, because now we view obesity as this huge issue. Woodstock 69. You go back 300 years. You're looking at the higher class people, living in these like feudal systems. They would intentionally wear bulky clothing to look fatter, because being fat was a symbol of success and wealth, that you could feed yourself, and it was a good thing to be fat. How crazy, like, in a matter of 200 or 300 years, an entire species will change what we consider to be successful or good
sexy
for us. Yeah.
Like, because there, in times in history, if you were really super skinny, heroin addict looking female, that was not attractive at all.
No, because you couldn't breed anything. They wanted a set of wide hips to birth their children and continue the succession.
I like curves, man.
Everyone, I think this is the thing. I think everyone does, because it's like, have you ever heard the concept like every species thinks a baby is cute?
Right.
Right? I also think as human beings, but as mammals, as carnal mammals, we will always look for the indicators of offspring and continuing our thing. So I think on an elementary level and a sexual lizard brain level, I think everyone loves a wide set of hips,
right,
and a big man with big broad shoulders,
right,
because those are the people that can continue that. It's only through your upbringing and the things that you're exposed to via media and your friends and your family that you develop these secondary opinions of what you consider attractive.
Right.
You get these snooky looking, just disgusting mutated things, and people are like, oh, that's so sexy. In my opinion, that's not sexy. That's
right.
altered. That's not natural. I want someone who looks like they exist in nature.
We live in weird fucking times,
Yeah,
man, because
do.
you can just surgically have a lot of that stuff changed.
But
I have a tough time with that. Well, some people do, some people don't.
Yeah.
So the thing is I view it as it's kind of a trap. It's a trick.
Yeah.
So like if you meet a woman and she's had some plastic surgery, she's got fake boobs, she's altered, you know, herself in different ways.
Yeah.
And you're because naturally the reason you find the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you find attractive, the deep root down inside of you, I think, is driven by, I would share my genes with that person, right? Like I want to pass genes on to that person. And I think that's even there with like homosexuality.
Oh yeah.
Whether they can or they can't, the deep rooted underlying drive of why I love this person so much is because this is a person I would share my genes with, right?
I agree.
But if you're falling for that and everything they're genetically offering is not real, you're not passing any of that shit on to your offspring.
No.
You meet a woman who used to have a unibrow and an underbite and some fucking buck teeth, and she had all that shit fixed with surgery, and she got big fake boobs, and you have your kids, and you're just like, where the fuck did you come from? Can I see some of your kid pictures, please?
Yeah.
Oh shit, so a part of me, and this just probably sounds real dickish, but it's like, it's a trick, man. Yeah. Like I want to know what you are, like for real. Like I'm just into real, like authentic. Mm-hmm. I think inauthenticity's ugly, man.
No, I agree 100%.
And it sucks that there's people that are so insecure about who they are that they feel like they got. Like I feel bad for that. Like I'm not making a moral judgment on anybody who goes under the knife to better how they look. Like I get where it comes from. I just wish that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Like we're so superficial. Like Rachel, who's here tonight, she'll be on the podcast too at some point. She said you guys work with a dude that's blind, and he doesn't judge anybody by their looks.
No, he doesn't. He's one of the most genuine, honest, lovable characters you'll ever meet. It's I can't agree with you more. It's almost a blessing, I feel like, for people that maybe have one of those senses taken away.
Right.
Because we're talking on a podcast right now. How many people are going to listen to this podcast and immediately make an assumption on yourself or
what
myself
we look like
because of how we sound?
Yeah.
But a person who's deaf is never going to judge a person on how they sound, or a person who's blind is never going to judge a person based off of their physical attributes. They only can work with the things that they're given, their input that they're receiving. How beautiful is that?
It's wild. I can't even imagine what it would really be like, and it sucks. I'm guilty of judging people by their looks. I think it's a built-in kind of defense mechanism because you kind of steer clear of the people that are looking shady or whatever,
Well, and you want to make yourself look better too. It goes back to wanting to be a superior choice for a selective companion.
Right.
There, on an elementary lizard brain level, I feel like all of us, on low-key, even with maybe our best friends, whether we're realizing it or not, are trying to always make ourselves look a little bit better. There's always that element of one-upmanship that's happening.
Why?
Because we want to say, oh, well, what if this person in the instant moment had to decide, I want to procreate with one of these two people, and they had to make a snap decision, whether we can help it or not. I think there's always going to be a little bit of ourselves that's going to say, oh, well, I better stand a little bit taller, or
we're all just
I better pump my chest
birds
out.
of paradise, trying to get laid, spread our genetics on.
And we talk about you know, earlier we were talking about all the things that women do. There's tons of things guys do too.
Guys do all sorts of shit.
There's steroids. Man. There's so many different things. There's colognes, because so much of attraction comes from, you know, your oral.
But that's
factory.
A trick too.
That's what I'm saying.
The thing is I was listening to a podcast.
It's not just one sided.
Talked about, like, we're one of the only species that kiss, and they say that is like, it's really old, man, and it goes back to, like, you smell the person.
Yeah.
And somebody who's closer to you genetically,
and you can see their
will
eyes
smell
too.
Not good.
Yeah.
Like, it won't be an attractive smell for you. So it actually served as a purpose to help you not spread your genes with somebody that was too closely genetically related to you.
Right.
Like, I remember, man, there's been multiple times, and I get that with my wife too. She doesn't wear anything like that, but their natural scent gets you really aroused.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, in junior high and high school, making out with girls, and that natural smell, like, I don't know what it does, but it's a real fucking thing. And that's what they try to recreate with colognes and perfumes, right?
It's like heroin. I remember my first junior high school dance, bunch of preteens sitting in a gym, really hot, all of us sweating our balls off because we were really nervous. We thought that was a bad thing. Little did we know, everyone is attracted to that scent.
Right.
Everyone, whether they recognize it or not, there's so many, like, boners going on in there, and hard tits, that, like, feelings that we'd never experienced before.
Right.
You know, like dancing, holding each other 3 feet apart, you know, hands on shoulders and hips. But, like, there's so much testosterone and estrogen flying around those rooms that we had no idea was happening, and we were self-conscious of, but if anything, was helping us.
Right.
How weird is that?
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm all about the natural, man. 100%.
Yep.
Just be authentic, you know. That's what it comes down to, and it cuts through everything. As a human being, as a person, in art and in music, if you're being authentic if you're just being yourself and being authentic, man, how can you lose?
I mean, if I'm gonna throw in my personal ethos here, I feel like being authentic is so much. I always say to myself, if you enjoy what you're doing and it doesn't hurt you or anyone else, you're doing good.
Yep.
That's like my ethos.
Hell yeah.
You know, and being authentic, I think that is along the same, you know, we're traveling on similar paths. It's like, if you're enjoying what you're doing, I think it's because you're being authentic to who you are.
Right.
And if that thing doesn't hurt you or anyone else, I think you're doing a good thing.
Fuck yeah. Makes sense, man. All right, last question. 2 more questions. Favorite band?
Favorite band? I'm probably gonna have to go with the Beatles on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Growing up, one of the first cassettes I ever, now you know how old I am. One of the first cassettes I ever had was Beatles. Great band, love it, always listen to it. My dad grew up in the era of the Beatles. I think he passed that off on me.
Right.
I found one of his yearbooks once, and he straight up had the Beatles cut and everything.
Yeah.
I just think they're timeless. I think that they can spread a message no matter where you are in life. I think there's a Beatles song out there that'll speak to you and help you find inspiration.
Hell yeah. Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Oh, there's so many. I have a lot of guilty pleasures.
What's the worst one?
The worst one?
The
probably,
one you're the most embarrassed about.
Embarrassed? I don't know if I'm embarrassed
That's
about
what
it.
A guilty pleasure is, man. Like, you listen to it,
okay.
but you don't want people to know you listen to it,
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking, like, it was just bad for you. I was going to say cigars, but... thing that I'm most embarrassed about... dude, I take baths. I'm all about, like...
No, music. Man. I was talking about music.
I like wine baths, dude. Those are the shit.
Okay, we know your guilty pleasure.
Oh, guilty pleasure.
On baths.
On
guilty
music. See, you got to say that. You phrased that poorly. You got to work on that, man. That's a deceiving question.
Hey, I'm learning.
Unless that was intentional.
Thing.
That's
a
good trick.
No.
Guilty pleasure
that
music?
That was an
accident. 303.
Who the fuck is that?
Exactly. Terrible. The only way you'll know 303 is if you were listening to music in like 2007, or you listen to Kesha and she has a track with them.
Jesus Christ.
And they're just like these two whitest dudes you'll ever see. I think they're out of Colorado. I think that's why it's 303. I think it's like an area code. But they're like the less well-known like party rock dudes, I guess. But
who would you compare them to?
Well, I was kind of like the party rock guys. Is that their name or is that their song? I can never remember.
I don't know who that is
Shit,
either.
I feel terrible.
You don't have to feel guilty because nobody knows who they are.
Yeah, but
if you were listening,
their songs,
to them,
they're like kind of rap, kind of hip hop, but they're just like dumb lyrics, like degrading lyrics, not like thought provoking, not groundbreaking, but some of their beats are so catchy. And when I was a kid, we would always drive over to Wendover and we would always blast 303 to get pumped before we'd go and gamble in Wendover.
So it's got some nostalgic.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Cool.
So that's probably my guilty pleasure music.
Hell yeah, man. Well, cool. I really enjoyed talking to you, man.
Hey, that was great.
You're an interesting human being.
Justin, I love you. Thanks for having me on.
You too,
I loved
buddy.
it.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode of The Swinging Lights, then please take a moment and just head on over to iTunes and just give us 5 stars. I mean, shit. That's how iTunes works. It's all off of, fucking algorithms, whatever the fuck they do. So if you want to help us out, that's the way to help us out more than anything else. So please take a moment, go over to iTunes, give us 5 stars, and, write some shit in the comments. We don't give a shit, man. Make fun of us, tease us, rib us, whatever. Give us a compliment. Lord knows we need compliments. But, do all that. That would be helpful. We are, today I just got the files for our album that we're getting ready to release, and we couldn't be more excited. We're going to get CDs. We're going to get vinyl records. This is the first album that I've ever been a part of that is going to be pressed to vinyl. So I'm pretty fucking excited about it. But if you want a sneak peek of what we're doing and some of the songs that are on the album, we've uploaded a few for our listeners. So just go to www. I don't need to say www. What the fuck am I thinking? Anyway, just go to theswinginglights.com and click on the music tab, and you can listen to half of the album early before anybody else. So once again, thank you so much for all of you who have commented, left positive feedback, and for listening to our show. And hope you all have a fantastic day.
Sick that I feel so relieved. This one treated me like a dream. Impatient, wide-eyed, tell me you're kidding. She fell for a simple smoke screen. All the trouble, all the drinking, she never skeletons